podcast about family, who we were then, who we are now, and who we are becoming. My dad was born in 1940, and times back then were different in a lot of ways.
And my mother said, "You better put that gun down. If you shoot me, I'm going to spank you like you've never been spanked before."
And then again, not that different at all.
Still picture us walking down the street, looking at the windows, looking at those travel brochures, looking at the diamonds and the little coffee shop and all that, and something I'll never forget.
My dad is a geologist, and I grew up on stories of his early career about riding elephants to work in Thailand, mine collapses, and how a Polaroid camera saved his life. I know these stories by heart, but it's time to share them with my own kids. Let's see what they have to say.
I had the mini moke. Remember, it was just like a little platform, a little tiny. I think it had actually 12-inch wheels, so that the bottom of the mini moke was literally 6 inches off of the ground. And we had all these jungle roads that went out there. They were actually ex-drilling roads. And we had one that went down to the river from where we actually lived. Where we lived was at Guyana, and there were two housing developments. It was a housing on top of the hill. That's where the white people, or the, as the locals called us, or the supervisors lived, because there wasn't no black supervisors that lived on the hill at that time. And then all the workers, which were predominantly black, lived below us on this flat plain down there. That's where they had the store and the church, and they had a laundromat there. In fact, the laundromat substituted for a church on Sundays, so different denominations would come there. Anyway, on this one road one day, I decided, well, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to go out there and see if that road goes to the river, even though it had rained and there was a lot of mud holes and all that. So what happened was I took the mini moke and I went just as far as I possibly could, and then I got stuck. I think I was by myself at that time. I had to start digging it out. As I was digging it out in those jungle muds, I happened to have on my Texas School of Mines graduation ring, which came off in the mud. And that was the last time I bought one of those. So it's still somewhere in the jungles, in the muds, that somebody maybe will find several hundred years from now. Well, anyway, I finally got it kind of unstuck, and I was able to start backing out, and I said, well, I'm going to walk toward the river to see how far it goes. So I walked a little bit, and I happened to look up there, and there was a jaguar. And he was, maybe a regular block away from me, and he was just sitting there in the road. I know that these attack humans. So what then I started to do is I started walking back very slowly, back toward the mini moke, which I had already turned around. And he started following me. And then when I would stop, he would stop. And he'd sit down and he'd look at me. I said, I hope that this is just curiosity, that you're not really hungry, just kind of seeing what I would do. So I was like 2 to 3 blocks away where the mini moke was, so I would walk about half a block backwards, always looking to see what's behind me, keeping him in sight. And every time I would walk, he'd get up and walk. Never got any closer to me. And I finally got to the mini moke and got the hell out of there. That was my first and only real encounter with a jaguar. Another time when I was driving to the pit was about 11 miles away from the office. I actually saw a puma, or a mountain lion, just like what we have right here, actually cross the road. So they were actually mountain lions there. One day when the barges came in, because it took them about 23 hours for the barges to come in from Berbice, because we're on the Berbice River. That's not the name of the town, Berbice. I'll try to remember the name of it a little bit later. It was on the coast where we had that shipping point. They would often hit trees with the barges, and then stuff would fall down from the barges onto there. Well, one time they had this big old tree sloth. He wasn't really big. It was kind of a really cute one. So they were all there looking at it, and they were going to kill it and all that. I said, no, let me take it. So what I did is I put it in the back of I had a pickup that I borrowed, little tiny Mars Mini Minor pickup, little tiny thing. Anyway, I put it in the back of the pickup, and I said, where in the world am I going to put it? Like a cage, because it didn't have a cage. But we did have a wash house that had the washing machine and a dryer in it, and it was set off like about almost as far as your barn is from your house, maybe a little bit closer than that. Anyway, I put him in there, and there was some rafters there, and he hung there, and then what I'd do is I'd bring him some leaves, and I don't know if he ever ate any leaves, but his mother went to go washing some clothes one time, couldn't find him, started up the washer, and of course the hoses are going back and forth, from the washing machine, and there was that stupid sloth hanging off those hoses. He was there for about 2 to 3 weeks, and then I think one day somebody opened the door. He walked out, and that was into that. Well, another time, we had another big tree sloth. It was a big one. We just put him up in the trees by the house there, and slowly but surely he got out of the compound, and either he was killed or he got out and back into the jungle. Another time we had a swimming pool, quote unquote. It was about maybe 15 feet long, about maybe 5 feet wide, and about 4 feet deep with a ledge on it. So we had 2 feet and 4 feet. And this was built by a previous doctor many, many years ago for his family. Well, it had nothing in it. It was all full of trash and everything else and sand. So I dug it out, decided, well, let's have a big aquarium. So what I did is I cleaned it all out and put water in it. And I would go and catch all these exotic fish, because I didn't have a glass aquarium at that time. Catch all these sand dollars, dollar fish and hatchet fish and neons and everything else, and had just absolutely filled with all those different fish in there. Trouble is, the algae would come in. So what I would do is I would get some copper sulfate from the warehouse and I'd throw some in there. And that worked pretty good until one time I didn't do it for a while. And then I put too much copper sulfate and killed all the fish. So I had to pump the water out and put some more water in. And this time we had caught a baby crocodile. He was about 2.5 feet long. So what I did is I lowered the water. He couldn't crawl out the ledge that we had there. So I put him in there, and we kept him there for a long, long, long time. Maybe for about 5 to 6 months. I guess what he did is he ate the fish that were in there, because I don't recall that we ever fed him. Well, at this time we had 2 cats. They were brother and sister, Blackie, and I forget what Susie may have been the other one. They were coal-black cats. And somewhere along the line, the male cat would get some kind of disease and be crippled in his hind legs. And the female cat, she was okay. Well, when your mother, she went to Georgetown to get supplies. So I was at the clubhouse, and I saw that the water was low in that swimming pool. So before I went to the clubhouse, I said, okay, remember, I'm going to put the water in because the water pressure was real low. When I come back from the club, I will turn the water off. Well, of course, I forgot all about it. And I would stay there until late at night. On the way back, I saw something really, really strange. I saw some red eyes crossing the road. Now, remember, my house was the one that was at the end. There was no other body, no other person even living close to me there. And I thought, gee, that looks like crocodile eyes. But I didn't pay much attention to it. Went to bed. Next morning I got up. The cats were gone. Well, where in the hell are the cats? So I called them and they never came. And so I decided, well, I'll go out and look at the alligators doing. And the water was still there, and the water was at the top of the pool, and the alligator had crawled out. Oh my God, the alligator must have eaten the cats. Because I didn't find the cats. It was 1 week went by, your mother came back, there was no cats. Now, there was a spot on one of the creeks there where the Guyanese women would go to wash their clothes. And it was safe because there were no crocodiles there. Well, would you believe that stupid crocodile went there? They tried to catch it several times. They were unable to catch it. I imagine eventually they got it because they didn't want the women getting eaten up by crocodiles while they were trying to wash their clothes. And would you believe it, about a week or so later, cats came back. I don't know where they were, but they went somewhere else, and I guess they were going to having kitten times, so we'd have kittens a little bit later.
The kitty's not dead.
The cat came back
The very next day.
I guess they were having kitten time. He took her off for a romantic weekend. So we had how many different pets here? We had a little sloth.
And then a big sloth.
And a big sloth.
And then 2 kitties who probably had a baby kitty that they
Lots
lost.
of baby kitties. Yeah, they probably wandered around.
Crocodile.
We had baby crocodile.
And a bunch of fishies.
And I never fed him, so I guess he ate the fish.
And the cats.
I think it's funny that when you listen to the stories, like, it's always... Not always, but a lot of times it's like my dad doing gardening or doing something with a fish tank or doing something with pets. Like, no matter where you find my dad in his timeline, there's always some kind of plant or animal.
Yeah, because that's
involved.
entirely what he does, like, with his free time now.
Yeah.
It's always picking up glass on the beach or fishing or
Like, even when he
Maintaining his
records...
aquariums.
Yeah, even when he records these things, he's walking around and you can hear doggies in the background.
And he has 2 fish tanks at the house right now.
Yes.
They have the
fresh and salt water.
55-gallon and the 200-something 300-gallon salt water.
Yes.
He's a
Ghost.
ghost. I remember hearing the sloth story whenever I was growing up, and I always liked the idea. I don't think they do it anymore, but the old washing machines would have, like, you know, they don't move like they used to, but, like, back then, when it was hitting the spin cycle, it would, like, shake, 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 shake. And so that's what he was talking about, like, the hoses, all the hoses attached to the washing machine is, because it was shaking, it was making those move.
The sloth.
Have y'all ever seen a sloth?
I don't think so.
I've seen a koala.
I haven't.
It's kind of a sloth.
A koala is kind of a sloth.
Like, if you look at it from far away, yeah.
In the same way that,
I think sloths and antelopes are very similar.
yeah, if you just look at them from far away and you're not wearing your glasses.
Okay, it's a slow, chunky mammal that sits in a tree and doesn't do very much except munch on leaves that really don't have enough energy density to be worthwhile.
Okay, can we get back on topic?
Yes. Okay, Kevin, your eyes went super hog wild when he was talking about chromium sulfate.
You can't even remember 2 words. Copper sulfate.
Coppers. I got the sulfate
Because
part.
I've used copper sulfate before. It's just beautifully blue crystal.
He's a chem nerd.
But why does it kill algae?
I don't know. I mean, I'd assume that it would kill
Is it
algae
acidic?
because no. It says it says agricultural fungicide, algaecide, cool stuff ponds, and molluscicide.
It's a molluscicide.
In an
I
algaecide.
don't know why though.
How many chemical bonds are in an organic sulfate? I already forgot the word.
Sulfates
Copper
are-
sulfate.
Copper sulfate.
Dear Lord.
What's the difference between a copper sulfate and a copper sulfide?
So a sulfate is a polyatomic ion, polyatomic, multiple atoms,
Okay.
ion, charged thing,
Okay.
has a positive or a negative charge. It's a group of atoms that have a sulfur in the middle and 4 oxygens on the outside.
That's the sulfate.
Yes, that's a sulfate, and then that is ionically, because this sulfate is negative, and then the copper in the water, or just in general,
Attaches to all the
copper
negative chunkies.
is a positive and attaches to the negative chunkies, and it forms a crystal whenever it tiles, like negative, positive, negative, positive, negative, positive.
Well, how do you get a sulfide?
A sulfide is just sulfur, no oxygens attached to it.
But then how could you have a copper sulfide?
You would have a copper attached to a sulfide. You can have sulfides. It would be copper, it would be CuS as opposed to CuSO4.
CuSO4. That's copper sulfide.
I think
I'm stalking you.
like stuff like that.
So copper sulfate was something they were probably using at the mines for like.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because it said it's mostly used as an agricultural thing. It's pretty toxic, but it's really good at killing infectants. And I don't know why. I could not tell you why.
Another time I had a East Indian. New Amsterdam was the name of the town where the port was for us. New Amsterdam was populated by East Indians, and Kwakwani was populated by blacks. And this was done on purpose because just before we got there, 3 months before we got to Guyana, they had ended a civil war that lasted for several years, in which the blacks fought against the East Indians, and the blacks eventually won. So there was still a lot of animosity there, so that was a hell of a thing for us to do, is to go to a country right after a civil war. And there were lots of bullet holes in Georgetown and other things like that, and a lot of animosity between the 2 races. Well, anyway, this banker came in, and he was from Britain, and he was East Indian, and he wanted to go fishing. Since I was the one that did almost all the fishing, so I decided to take him out there with me. And meanwhile, we caught, looks like it's a silver dollar. And it looked, the silver dollar that we're talking about looks, I'm not sure it's exactly a silver dollar, but it looks like exactly like a piranha. He pulled it in a boat, and it fell off. And he asked me, "Is this a piranha?" And he stuck his finger in its mouth. I told him, "You're just damn lucky that that wasn't a piranha. You'd have the part of your finger bitten off." So he was kind of stupid. Also, later that week, Tom McWaters was there and his wife, And he and I decided we would have a crocodile hunt. And what Tom did, he got some sticks, some powerful poles, and he decided that what we're going to do is we're going to go out at night with a light and we're going to snare these crocodiles. The trouble is the rope, when you try to use a rope, it wouldn't hold up, so he had to have something that would maintain its shape. So he decided to use aluminum welding wire, which would turn out to be disastrous because as soon as you pick that alligator, he would just turn all over the place and the wire would snap. Well, anyway, so here we are going down the jungle. I'm on one side of the river and I'm navigating, and Tom is on the other side. And since Tom always fussed at his wife, she got tired of his complaining, so what we did is we put Ruth in Tom's boat and we put Elaine in my boat, and then that calmed things down about yelling what to do here and what to do there, especially with Tom. So anyway, we decided both to get on the same side of the river, and we tried snaring several of them. They were about 3 feet long. I had the East Indian in my boat, and I had Elaine in my boat, and I had the shopkeeper's son. We had a mechanic, a chief mechanic. He was from Arkansas. A 12-year-old son was in the boat with me also. And we had an East Indian secretary. So I had the boy, the girl, the banker, and Elaine. And I was in charge of the motor. So we went along the bank there. We saw several crocodiles. Every time we tried to use the rope, it didn't work. So I was there watching Tom. And I was right next to the shoreline, and I happened to have an oar that had this hand shape cut into it that I could use to do paddling. And while I was watching Tom, it was dark. I took the flashlight, looking right down below the boat there was a little crocodile. And it was really, really shallow water. So I turned the oar upside down, and I pushed down on it real hard, and I mashed his head down, and his tail came up. And he couldn't do anything. So all the rest of them, they were in this aluminum boat. It's about a 16-foot aluminum boat. You know, the regular seats and all that on it. Y'all get to the front of the boat. I'm going to throw this crocodile into the boat because his tail was sticking up. And they said, oh, okay. So they were slowly moving toward the front. I said, you got to hurry up. Come on now, because this thing's getting away. And they were slowly moving toward the front of the boat. So I just reached in there, and I grabbed him by the tail, and I threw him in the boat. And, of course, it was dark at night, and with the aluminum boat, that crocodile started running through the boat. You could hear the scratching, and here were the kids, all the people in the front of the boat. They were screaming, and they hauled, and the next second I looked up there, and we had a little nose of the boat that had a little platform in there, and it was about 2 foot in diameter. Luckily, we were in shallow water because all four of them were clinging next to each other, trying not to fall into the water and getting, get as far away from that crocodile. And he was just going back and forth and snapping all over the place. I thought it was funny as hell. So after I stopped laughing, then I finally grabbed the crocodile, and we had some rope, and I tied up his hind legs and his front legs and all of that. So we had our first crocodile. Well, Tom never did catch a crocodile. After we decided several hours that nobody's going to get anything anymore, let's just go back in. Now remember, this is dark. This isn't a jungle. This isn't a river Berbice. A river with crocodiles and boa constrictors and piranhas and everything else. We went back, pulled up on the deck, and I had the crocodile there. It was sitting there on the deck. It was tied up with its legs behind it. And I said, well, let's just go ahead and turn it loose. And Tom says, no, the tails are good to eat. I want to eat the thing. I said, well, it's yours. Here, you do with it whatever you want. So he took a machete, whop, he cut the tail off. And here this tail was going back and forth, like a lizard tail. When a lizard tail breaks off, it was going back and forth. And Elaine came over there and asked, what's going on? He says, that's what Tom is going to have you cook. Now, remember, we're right on the dock there by the river. She said, oh, yeah? And she took her foot and she kicked it into the river, and that was the end of the crocodile tail. So Tom didn't get a chance to eat his crocodile.
I like how we just skipped over the quick racial war just for the funny part. I think that's what caught me most off guard. It was like, yeah, there's this race war going on, but
it's fine.
So we got in this boat, and then we started fighting, and that's the actually important part. Nobody cares about the racial wars.
Well, he did make a comment that it was interesting that they came in right at the end of this race war to, take advantage of all of their, mineral wealth. So, I think we did get at least a nod in that direction. That was super fun.
But
and this is the great place to bring your 12-year-old son whenever you're going to go work out in the jungle. I can't imagine what that conversation was with his wife. This will be a great place. Lots of opportunities.
still confused if I misinterpreted the aluminum wire. So he had a rope, and the rope wasn't working as a rope. So he's like, you know what would be a great rope substitute? A metal wire.
I know.
I don't understand why you would have possibly made that decision.
I'm wondering if they did like a thing where it was like they could tighten it around his head. Maybe they thought it
Like
could
a
be
ratchet. Chucky.
You'd like put it on the end of a
Taut line
pole or
A taut line hitch.
are those all knots?
Yes.
Okay.
That's one knot.
That's a knot.
Maybe they made a taut line hitch with their welding wire.
Yeah, isn't welding wire is really tiny, right? Right?
Well, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
welding wire's
Welding wire is
small.
pretty thin, and I would say not very.
Useful.
Diameter of welding
It's gonna be
wire.
like 2 inches. No, not centimeters. My bad.
No, it's
That's
not.
still
That would be a
pretty
very thick wire. 2 centimeters.
0.6 millimeters.
There you go.
2.9 millimeters. So
Little.
very, very little.
I think I forgot how big a centimeter is.
A centimeter is 5 centimeters is 2 inches.
Yeah, because 2.54 centimeters. Shut up, Keegan.
I took earth science, so I know it.
I also like the fact that apparently no matter where you go in the universe, there's always like that couple that ruins everything, and so you have to separate them.
Oh my god.
We got. I like whenever my dad tells stories about things that are absolutely terrifying to everyone else and goes, I thought it was funny as hell.
I mean, to be fair, it was funny as hell. So, like, I don't entirely blame him.
So what we learned from this one in particular is if you think a fish might be a piranha.
Don't put your finger in its mouth.
It's like,
that would be-
the taste test in the chem lab.
Another time when I was going back and forth to the mines, I would see these gigantic boas. You know, we're talking about boas 6 to 8 feet long type thing. So I decided I wanted to have one. I wanted to skin one. So I would always go down the road and they would be alive and I'd get the machete and I'd try to go out after them, but they'd always get into the jungles. I never could get one. Well, one day, a truck, an 18-wheeler, one of the big ore trucks, ran over the head of one of them. And it had just run over him. So I went and grabbed it right quick. It must have weighed about 50, 60 pounds, the snake did. And I put it in the back of the mini moke. And then I went home and I took a knife and I skinned it. And then I threw the rest of the snake into the river for the piranha to have. So I had this big skin, and I was talking about with the locals there, how do they go and tan hides? What they said is they took mothballs and salt, and they would soak the skin in that, and what that would do is that would kill the germs. It pulls the water out of it. And so I did that for a week, and then they said another thing you have to do, you have to soak it in tannic acid for a week. Well, I didn't have any tannic acid. They said, well, yeah, there it is, just on those trees. Go pull those bark off, and you soak the water from the bark. That way you get the tannic acid. So that's what I did. I went and got the bark off the trees and stripped it off, soaked it in the water, and sure enough, all the water turned brown, as we see with the tannic acid, and I was able to make that snakeskin. That's the same one that I have in the house, and because it was getting older as time went on, your mother got me a piece of khaki and then cut it to the length of the snake, and what we did, we sewed the snake onto that. And that's that snake that I have that's on the khaki cloth, and that's how we happened to get it. One of the things that was around there was leaf-cutting ants, and they were huge colonies of them. Of course, we had the rainy season, and they would be in there, and they'd have holes. If you look at the leaf-cutting ants around my house, they have a hole about the size of your finger. Well, they had holes the size of your fist, and they would come out in monstrous armies. So we had basically nothing green there. So I discovered that they had these foggers. What you do is you put some kind of a highly deadly poison in them. It has a flame. I think it uses diesel fuel to heat the thing up. And it's a smoker. It's a fogger. And so what I started doing, I started fogging all the holes around there. And I would put it near the house, and I'd look 100 yards over, and there would be fog coming out, so I'd push that one. And I did that for about 3 weeks, and I finally got the leaf-cutting ants moved at least a quarter of a mile, if not further, away from the house. So I had the whole area in there because I wanted to have a garden. First of all, I tried to put a garden in the ground, and I'd get it about halfway grown, and the leaf-cutting ants would come up. So I realized that wasn't going to work. So what I did is I got some old lumber, I built me a box that was about 3 foot wide, and about 8 foot long. There was a swamp nearby, and I went and dug up the soil from the swamp because the soil we had around there was all sterile. It was all from the rains, your laterite. And I would take axle grease and I would coat it so that the ants wouldn't climb up it. Sometimes you'd see just hundreds of dead ants that are trying to get past that grease. Well, anyway, so I did have a garden in there, and then I just decided I'm going to push them back a half a mile away. So I spent another month, and I got them all pushed away back, and then I decided to plant some strawberries and watermelons. Well, of course, I couldn't get any strawberry plants. I got someone in Richmond, I wrote them a letter, and they sent me a package of 1/32 of an ounce of strawberry seeds, which is the little things you see on the strawberry, which are a lot of them. And so I actually grew several strawberry plants, but I never got any strawberries out of them. But anyway, I had some watermelons. And the Guyanese, they would come by every day and they would look at them and said, you know, you need to pick that because someone's going to go and steal it. I said, no, nobody's going to steal it. It's going to be okay. And they would come to me every day. And the watermelon got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Well, see, everybody was concerned about everybody stealing watermelons, and they did. So whenever they ate a watermelon, they always ate it when it was green. They never ate a red watermelon. Several of the people that told me that people were going to steal them in there, when it happened, I cut it open, it was all red, and I invited them, and they just thought that was just absolutely wonderful to have a red watermelon. And I think that was the first red watermelon that the camp ever had, and the first strawberries that were grown there, although we never got any strawberries out of it. What else did I try to plant? I had plantains. I grew all different kinds of bananas that I got out of the jungles. I would find fallen trees and find orchids on them. So I had our yard just absolutely all the way around as many orchids as I possibly could find. Every time I drove out in the jungle, which was quite often, those old exploration roads, they were true jungle roads. Mud type things. You could only go in the dry season, not in the rainy season. And so I was able to collect an incredible number of orchids. Now, they're not as pretty as the ones in Singapore. All these are, wild orchids, so they have fairly smaller flowers in there. That was one of the things that I did as a hobby. And another thing, of course, was to go and collect butterflies. And they had those blue morphos. And those things would never fly close to the ground. And some native told me about it, and I did it. What I did is I took a stick with a blue cloth on it, and I would wave it. Normally, they flew about 20 feet off the ground, and they would come in and they would attack the blue, and then I would get it. So that's the butterflies that you see that I have in the house from Guyana. That's where they basically came from, going out there. And what I did was I got a hypodermic from the hospital there, and I got some ether, used for the hospital. And I would inject them with ether, and that would kill them and relax them and help preserve them. So that's why I still have those butterflies today.
Oh, I just casually went to the hospital and got a hypodermic needle and what was it? Ether?
Yeah. I bet you if I went to the hospital and be like, hey, can I just have a syringe and some ether? They'd be like, sure.
They'd arrest me.
All right, 2 chemistry lessons. Number 1, tannic acid. I have no idea. I looked it up. It's just, for lack of a better term, silly, goofy organic compound. It's just massive. Like, you've seen those chemistry diagrams where it's just a giant compound of, like, hexagons and all these things poking
okay,
around.
sure.
You know what I'm talking about? It's just one of those. It's just a giant molecule, and it's found in the bark of various oak.
He was using it to tan the hide of that snake we got in the living room.
I don't know how tanning works, but
If
if tannic acid is used in tanning, that's probably why it's called tannic acid. Okay, and then an ether is just a compound that's like primary structure. Like the thing that is most noticeable about it is that you have like something happening over here, and then something happening on the other side, and then an oxygen atom in the middle that's connecting them two. That's an ether.
That's an ether.
Yeah.
That's pretty fantastic.
So like diethyl ether or dimethyl ether.
And again, we're back to gardening.
Yes, that seems to be a common theme.
He still has a garden, so...
Does he have one at Arliss?
Not yet.
Not yet, but we have a greenhouse
But we have
for
a
him.
greenhouse
That's
that'll
true.
be on the list. Yeah, he's always had a garden, and every time we listen to these, I think about, and this is what people do when they don't have access to
The internet.
the internet, or like, but he could have been scrolling through Reddit that whole time, and if he wanted a watermelon, just have it
It's
2-day
like-
shipping.
It's like before the internet, people went out and did badass things just for the fun of
For
it.
the fun of
To
it.
be fair, I do some pretty cool things that are digital.
Like, I have a podcast. It's super cool. I didn't in any way leave basically 2 years between episodes 4 and 5.
You've been so busy.
I've been busy
With
tanning.
15 hours of Stardew Valley per day.
Yes, Stardew Valley takes a lot of
700
effort.
hours in Pie-Cross Touch.
Yes, but doesn't it make you feel like, I mean, man, I want to do cool things.
I mean, like I think that a lot of
I'm
people,
good.
Okay, because if my options are what I'm doing now or get crocodiles thrown at me, I'm happy where I am. And to be honest,
But if it's that or death.
like, I think that as long as you maintain a healthy balance between doing
Adventure.
things inside and excessive adventure, I think it's okay. I think we are all allowed to use the technology that we have created as a society to make our lives easier. I think that is the point.
I tried to grow a watermelon in the front yard. Y'all remember? There was a
Yes.
watermelon that sat there for like months and months and months. I was thinking
And
about
we
his
cut it
story.
open and it was like yellow or
It was
white.
still like white on the inside. Like it just never turned red.
Well, you don't have to
I tried it. It was not good.
I must not. Obviously, whatever gardening genetics did not pass through me, so I don't think y'all are gonna have much luck either.
Gee darn, there goes my plans.
I was gonna, yeah.
This was the selection that I picked for this podcast was mostly like a day in the life kind of stuff, like every day, what it was like for them living in Guyana.
Like
So
hobbies and stuff.
Yeah, hobbies and stuff. So not specific adventures of like, we went over here. I mean, aside from the adventure of, I threw a crocodile in my boat. That's just like a normal everyday thing.
Obviously.
Not the, I was going up the side of a mountain on an elephant kind of thing.
Yes, except for the jaguar at the beginning.
Oh, yes.
That was very adventurous.
He did say that was a once-in-a-lifetime thing.
I hope it was a once-in-a-lifetime thing. Preferably a zero-in-a-lifetime thing.
Hey, I don't know how he survived about half of these.
He has plot armor.
He doesn't have one. Yeah, that's the best way to describe it.
Awesome. Let's see what happens.
We had lots of bamboo there. So what I did is I cut up all this bamboo, and we had a front screen porch. And I decided to make a bar out of bamboo. So it took me a month to cut all this huge bamboo. I had vertical and crossways with a doorway, and I had this real fancy bar, just a table with credenza, you might say, with bottles of booze in it. So I had this real fancy looking bar, and I put lights on it and all that kind of stuff. And it was really cool looking. I mean, it was all this big green bamboo, and it looked like a professional job. Unfortunately, I didn't know that there were termites in it. And within, 6 months, the whole thing fell down because it was eaten from the inside out by all the termites that were in the bamboo. So that didn't work out very good. Another time is that I would go out there and find these big pieces of purple heart, which is a really beautiful wood. And I would have the truckers bring them into me. And we had this big saw, and I would cut them up into boards. And then we had a tongue and groove machine, and I actually went and tongue and grooved them, and I made paneling out of it, this real beautiful wood. And I went and I put it all in our bedroom. And now remember, for me to even put it in there, I had to drill holes with it because it was so hard. Well, after I put all this paneling in, we went on our first vacation, and when we came back, there were gaps between every one of the boards. I didn't compensate for letting the boards dry. The boards were like 6 inches across, and they shrank about 3/4 of an inch. So I had to go and pull them all off again and put them back in together. And of course, I had to go and cut some more boards to go and fit that. So even though it was a beautiful paneling that we had in our bedroom, it didn't work out as well as I would hope it would. So that was, again, remember, this is the Purple Heart that if you have the sawdust, it just sinks into water. And of course, I had to buy new saw blades all the time because the wood was so hard, it literally dulled the saw blades. So that was like a 3-month project that I did, quote, in my spare time to make all of this paneling. One of my jobs was to make sure that the tires on the trucks survived. And what we were using, these are great big old tires. At that time, they cost $2,000 a piece. Those same tires today will cost $20,000 a piece. And we had what's called 28 ply. And had BF Goodrich and Goodyear. And they would literally melt on the truck. They were carrying 30 tons, and they were traveling 40, 50 miles an hour for 11 miles. Well, the tires weren't designed for that. So we tried various things, like put about 50 gallons of water in it, and that helped a little bit. It got a little bit more life out of them, but we're talking about maybe every 2 weeks we had to go and replace the tires. And since each of them had 4 in the rear, 2 in the front, that was 6, so that was about $12,000 plus the time it took to change it. So we decided to go in and try the 24 ply, and that worked remarkably well. We tripled the life of the tires. B.F. Goodrich and Michelin said, well, we're coming up with this sidewall one. Why don't you try that? Now, we're going to do this, and we hope that you're going to be our customer. So we did try it, and it worked remarkable. But the trouble was that their sidewalls were too thin, and what happened, rocks would get in between the two tires, and they'd eat up the tires, and they were gone. So we tried to put rock ejectors, which would be like big pieces of steel tied to the axle, so that if a rock got in there, it got ejected out. Well, again, it turns out that the B.F. Goodrich tires just couldn't hold up to the Michelin. And so the management decided that, well, money's money, we can't be friends on this here because the bottom dollar is what counts. And so we ended up going with the Michelin tires, and that was a major improvement on our efficiency and our profitability that we had with the bauxite. Another thing is that I was telling you about how I was kind of really mistreated by the management there. They would have staff meetings, in which there would be Dwayne Reber, he was the assistant manager. Charlie Bartlett, he was the guy that I keep referring to as the crooked manager. And then we had the Mexican, I just now lost his name, that was the chief engineer. And then they would have the Guyanese warehouse guy in there. Then they would have the electrician that I was in charge of. And they had a couple of others, but I was not allowed to attend. And whenever I was allowed to attend, I would have to come in, make a short presentation, and leave. So, like I told you before, they were trying to do everything they can to get rid of me, trying to make me to quit. See, the trouble is, I didn't care because I had a job. I was saving lots of money. I was working in the jungles of South America. Your mother and I would go out fishing and we'd go out exploring in the woods. We'd find orchids, we'd find exotic woods. We would find all these various things. So for at least a year and a half, I really didn't care because to me, that was a lot of fun.
I really want to hear more about tires. Gosh, that was so interesting.
No, but okay, there's finally some engineering in here, right? Because he's a mining engineer.
I wouldn't really consider that, because he's a mining engineer. And you're saying the engineering is, we tried this tire and it didn't work.
No,
So
they also talked about, okay, what do we need to do to increase the... I like how they never considered the idea of maybe drive slower.
No, yeah. Also, he's like, yeah, we replaced it every 2 weeks, and then it tripled the lifetime. 6 weeks on a tire.
Well,
that's still not great.
Didn't they
6
say
tires per car?
it took forever for stuff to get down the river? So basically, they just had a constant stream of tires coming down the river.
Probably.
Probably.
I mean, whatever gets people money.
So which one won? I already forgot. Was it Michelin or the other one?
I thought it was Michelin.
I don't remember. I wasn't paying attention.
I don't know how you fill a tire. Can you fill a tire with water? Just
No.
That seems really dangerous because,
Seems counterproductive.
things spinning have angular momentum. Whenever it's very heavy because water, high angular momentum, skadoosh.
Well, I think the idea is that the truck is way heavier than the water in the tires.
That doesn't matter because the tires, they're meant to hold what, let's say 30 psi, right?
I think not those tires. Those are massive tires.
Yeah, okay. I came up with a number randomly. Say they're supposed to hold 30 psi of air. Now you fill them with water. First of all, water cannot be pressurized, really, because it's liquid. So you're kind of just stuck with the weight of the water. But if it's a giant tire and you're filling it with dense, heavy water and then making that dense, heavy water spin around really fast, that's just a bomb at that point. That sounds terrifying.
I would love to hear more about tires.
See? We just started talking about tires.
Real interested, guys.
Okay, so that purple heart wood, y'all know what that is? We brought
No.
some home at Christmas this time.
No.
We brought it. You didn't see me bring it home from I was unloading the Suburban and I handed it to you and I said, "This is special wood." And you said, "Why is it special?" And I said, "It's purple heartwood and it sinks."
I remember it existing. I don't remember anything else.
Okay, so yeah, this is a really, really dense wood that, like you said, even the sawdust will sink on it. But it's really beautiful. My dad still has pieces of that wood that we just brought up here recently.
Yeah, heartwood is generally very oh, it literally is purple. Okay.
You liked that.
I liked the fun, the action. That's what's interesting, not I like wood and tires.
It literally is purple.
Crazy.
Well, I guess as an adult, I kind of like the day-to-day living parts of it, because it's like, while you're having adventures, someone's still got to do laundry,
And it wasn't him.
and it wasn't, well, and panel the wood on
Well,
your...
that was his fun thing.
I know.
It was fun.
I don't get how he never, like, gave up. I know I'm saying that, but, like, as someone...
Who gives up all the time?
No. As someone who's living in a day-to-day life where you don't have to go make a house out of bamboo, how do you go do that? And then it just fall apart and you go, well, I tried.
I know, like, we've been trying to fix that Sunbeam Alpine, and every time we fail, it takes, like, another, like...
month to get back.
To get the courage to go back out and try again, because I know I'm going to be under that car, and I'm going to get...
And it's not gonna work, but
And
we're
it's
gonna get closer for it to actually work.
It's like you go halfway through a door, and then you can go halfway of the remaining distance and halfway of the remaining distance, but you're never actually going to get through the door. That's how I feel about that car. I can't imagine...
Really sad.
I know!
Hey. The sum from n equals 1 to infinity of 1/2 to the n is 1.
What the
It
hell?
is, if we got all the way to infinity, but I can't ever get to infinity. I just have to keep sitting here. I'm on, like, step 32.
To next minute.
I'm not even close to infinity yet. So it's like, I built this whole bar, and the termites ate it. I put up all this wood paneling, and it did.
And it shrinked.
And then we replaced the tires, and then they broke again.
We have those things, but it's like, I tried to code this and then it errored out.
That's true.
I tried to upgrade my game, and it took an hour.
I know, I would just get so, like, I think this is where I am in my brain right now. I just hear those stories, I'm like, I would be just so heartbroken, and now he's just like, termites ate it.
I like termite.
It takes a very different kind of mindset and approach toward things,
Yeah,
which
it
is
also
not necessarily better or worse.
Okay, so this one is a little bit more day-to-day. Am I getting from the crowd that you would like some more action and adventure?
I mean, I thought this was fine. I mean, like, as long as you didn't yap
Y'all are
about tires for
old.
3 hours.
And the 13-year-old continues to show that she has no patience, so...
Bro, what do you want me to do? Y'all are talking about tires and chemistry.
She also shows that she has the ability to get to a very, very high pitch. So...
Bro, leave me alone.
So on that note, we will keep an eye out for some more adventure next time. Bye, friends!
Yay!
Thanks for listening. This was produced by Clever Fred Studios. Our intro music is This Is My Town from Slipstream. Special thanks, as always, to Keaton and Brunman for taking the time to listen to these stories again with me, and of course thanks to my dad for taking the time to record them in the first place. Here's a sneak peek at what's coming up next time.
I bought a .22 rifle, and I had about 1,000 rounds of ammunition. And what was amazing is I strapped it on my shoulder. I got on Texas International Airlines, and at that time you could smoke. So here we are smoking on the airplane with me carrying this rifle sitting right next to me there, carrying a bag with obviously filled with .22 shells.